Hello again, Sandwich. I'm Greg Anderson. Gene Parini, he's running for the one-year seat that's open on the Sandwich Select Board. He says taxes are too high, spending's out of control, and it's time for a shakeup. Let's talk with him about taxes, wastewater, working with a board that he's kind of already called out, and how he plans to fix things without starting a small civil war. Lots to talk about, lots to do. Welcome, Gene Parini. So nice to meet you. Very
nice to meet you, Greg.
Yeah.
It's finally wonderful to meet you after all the email exchanges. So,
yes.
And thank you very, very much for the offer of the interview. So.
Well, my goal has always been, and I think I've been doing these for 10 years, eight years, something along those lines, is really to provide an opportunity for somebody to learn about candidates. I come at it from a conversational approach, and I do my research in advance. And if at the end of it, I feel like I like you as a guy, I might not agree with you, or I definitely agree with you, hopefully no one will know.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. This is your first race?
It's actually my second race.
Your second,
yeah,
okay.
I ran many years ago. When there were 3 openings.
Okay, for selectmen?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, there were 5 candidates. I think it was 2 openings. There were 5 candidates. I came in 3rd.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But it was a very good experience.
Good.
When you go through a campaign, when you run for election and you lose, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
So it's
what are some of the lessons learned from that first go-around that you're applying this go-around?
Much more trying to get out in the public and meeting people.
Okay.
Much more door knocking. That is a critical piece of campaigning. When I'm doing door knocking, I'm hoping people are home so that I can have a very good conversation with them. And of course, the first things that they want to know is, why are you running for select board?
Yeah.
And of course, the reasons why I am running for select board, number 1, foremost, I want to serve the people of Sandwich. Number 2, I want to fight for tax relief. So a lot of times once I say that, it's hard to go on because then they take over from there.
That's the point that people get stuck on, that want to talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They take over the conversation. I hear their stories
Yeah.
about how difficult it's becoming to stay in Sandwich.
Yeah.
And so we have that conversation, and we all agree that the town of Sandwich is a wonderful place to live. My wife and I have been in Sandwich for almost 40 years. We brought up our 3 children. They went through the public school systems. They're all doing very, very well today. But the taxes have increased so much that it's an affordability problem for many of Sandwich residents. So we go through that.
I'm curious about those that you do talk to, and it's not surprising to me that people would say, "Oh boy, Gene, taxes, they're killing me." But are those people ones that you think are showing up at selectmen meetings or are at town meeting and voting? Are they actively engaged? Do you get a sense that people will complain but not do anything about it, or they are in fact ones that are actually doing something and putting your voice out there?
Surprisingly, I think that there are many highly engaged Sandwich residents. I shouldn't say surprisingly.
Yeah.
They all seem to know what's going on in town, and they will vent their frustrations. But I also have to say that Sandwich residents are very, very busy people. A lot of households, there are multiple people working in the households. They're caring for children. They're caring for families. They've got soccer practice, drama, so many things going on.
Yeah.
And so what they hope for is to elect someone that's going to work in their best interest.
Yeah.
Without having to monitor from day to day or week to week or attend a select board meeting. I mean, who has the time to go to a select board meeting? Mostly if they have an issue, they're going to go. But they're relying on their elected representatives to represent them, and sadly, that's not happening. That is not happening.
I will say, I don't even know if we can track this, but we do put, the TV station puts all of the select board meetings
Yes.
on TV.
I've watched.
Yeah, I'd love to. I always just wonder how much are people actually engaging versus just observing and being frustrated.
Yeah,
And we'll never know the exact numbers.
Right.
But let's talk a little bit about you're fighting for tax relief. But I want to drill down. Who are you fighting for specifically? Are we talking about seniors? Are we talking about businesses? Are we talking about young families? And it's easy to say everyone, but is there a particular area or group that you're focused on that lands in your priority?
I know it's easy to say everyone, but that's really who it is. But I feel I have to fight especially for the working families.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a lot of young families in town with children,
Yeah.
and budgets are being stretched to the absolute maximum. I mean, look at heating bills. Look at your gas bill. Look at your electric bill. Look at your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance. What's happened to those over the last year?
Yeah.
They've gone out of sight. And the same is happening with real estate taxes. And then, the governor may introduce legislation allowing cities and towns to increase hotel taxes, meals taxes, and excise taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that we have to keep on top of. Those are the things that we have to say no more.
Yeah.
The last time we had meal tax, the town increased the meals taxes. The town increased the hotel taxes. If they were authorized to do excise taxes, they would do that too. And it would happen because nobody says no.
So let me pick up on that. In the enterprise, in reference to very costly town projects, the Center for Active Living, library renovations, town hall, new town hall, you said the frustrating thing is nobody is saying stop.
That's right.
Are you saying that those in particular should never have happened?
I'm not saying they never should have happened.
Okay.
Let's take one thing. Let's look at the improvements to the old Human Services building. $1.5 million was spent on that building for a superintendent's office. Does he have a spa treatment center in there? Are there pool tables? Why $1.5 million for a superintendent's office?
What would you have seen as the alternative?
Have them in the school where we used to be. Why do we need to spend and maintain a building when we have the space in the schools? It can be segregated like it used to be. Why do we spend money like that?
Have you been in there?
I have not, no.
So when you go in there, there's clearly his office and others, but you have all of, even on the lower level, all of the technology, like the team that really are almost like the town hall, benefiting from being in the same place. Could that happen in a school?
I remember visiting Superintendent Dr. Canfield a number of times when I was on the Finance Committee. He had a very smooth operation in the schools. He was in the high school. It was a segregated area. Mm-hmm. It worked fine. So those are the things that I think that we should keep. And when you talk about other buildings, I hear this a lot when I'm door knocking, $3 million renovations to the library, that when people go in and they say, what the heck did they do? They like the old better than the new, and we spent $3 million. $17 million on a senior active center. 26,000 square feet. Do we need it that big?
So, but doesn't this, and you may know better than I do, but aren't some of these approvals coming from town meeting, and we as voters are authorizing spending
Yes.
and encouraging these?
But now keep in mind,
Yeah.
who attends town meeting? All right, we're lucky to have 300 people at town meeting. And I will bet you 60% of those attendees are town employees. And
That's a guess, right?
Of course.
Okay,
I don't take a survey.
Yeah,
I'll tell
yeah.
you that right now.
Yeah.
But it's my guess. It's my theory.
Yeah.
And so why are they attending town meeting? They're attending town meeting because they want that budget approved. Everybody votes their pocketbook, right? If I'm a town employee, I am going to show up at town meeting.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, your supervisor's probably reminding you to attend town meeting. Because your budget, your pay raise is included. I do not begrudge anybody a pay raise. When I'm working, I want a pay raise. Everybody deserves a pay raise. Everybody works hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to the select board member. If it reaches town meeting, it's going to be approved. It's up to the select board to stop it, to say, no, this is too big. This 26,000 square foot building is too big. We can save millions by downsizing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that go to town meeting.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. And I think what's happening here is that our current select board is not aware that they provide the guidance to the town manager.
You think they're not aware?
I think they're not aware.
Wow.
And I will say that because I've attended budget discussions, and I've watched and I've attended. The last budget, there were two presentations of a budget. One on the general government side with a 3.05% increase to the general government side, and then the 3.5 for the school and the 3 for the Upper Cape Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Then in addition to that, there was another budget proposal with a 6% increase. The town manager said to the select board, I like this 6% increase budget. Patrick Ellis, select board member, raises his hand, says, I move we approve the 6% budget as presented. Unanimous.
Okay.
It's all unanimous.
So,
Nobody says,
yeah.
and this is, it's up to the select board to give the guidance to the town manager. If I'm on that select board, I'm going to give guidance that says, present us a budget with 0% increase,
Yeah.
with no tax increase. And let's see what we can do with that.
So when we look at the need to, let's talk about the budget. Unanimous vote, more discussion. You would have voted no on the budget?
I would have asked for a lower budget. The other very frustrating thing.
So just so I'm clear, when Patrick Ellis says, I move to accept the budget, you would have said no?
I would have said no to that.
Okay.
I would definitely have said. I think I commented at public forum
Yeah.
about that.
How do you balance fiscal responsibility with the need to invest in the town without automatically framing spending as a negative?
Well, we've had a lot of investment in town,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if you look at what we've done, we've spent $3 million on the school library, $1.5 million for the superintendent's building, $17 million for an active center, $17 million for public safety. All right, we're approaching $50 million, right? The investment's there. All right, now they're proposing a $60 million DPW combination fire station. When does it stop?
Yeah, and all three of you running have said it's crazy money.
It's crazy money.
Yeah.
You know, we are $55 million in debt right now. That's the credit card balance. It costs Sandwich taxpayers $5 million a year to pay down that debt. What's going to happen if we double it? That project alone is going to add $400 to $500 for the average taxpayer. It's going to be much more for people that have homes that are valued much more.
What are the alternatives?
The alternatives is to look at it. You know, I attended the meeting when the town manager said, oh, by the way, this project, we got a cost estimate of $60 million. What did you do before that? What else did you look at? You just presented this to a bunch of professional consultants to come up with a figure in the plans and $60 million. What was done before that? Was there a team that says, what is the least amount of money we can spend on repairing the DPW building? And, you know, where were those discussions? Where were they?
Do you think they could have happened, but
Yes.
we don't know about them? I'm thinking
No.
benefit of the doubt. I hear what you're saying. I'm just thinking, couldn't there have been a lot more to the story than what you're presenting?
If so, why wasn't there a discussion about it? If so, it should have been presented at the select board meeting. The town manager should have said, oh, we've investigated repairs. They don't work because of XYZ. There were no public discussions of it that I am aware of.
Yeah.
You know.
You have said both of my opponents are former town employees. One is a former fire chief, and the other is a former school contractor. You're referring to Chief Newman and Dave Sampson. And you said, do we really need former town employees to be sitting in this seat on the select board? But Dave Sampson is not an employee. He was a consultant. Consultants aren't employees. But we're looking at, so if we were to look at Newman, you know, Chief Newman, you've also got Bobby George, who is a former employee, and Patrick Ellis, who is a former employee. Should they not be on the board as well?
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't be on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, they're wonderful people. I love Bobby George. I know Bobby George a little bit. And Charlie Holden. I know Charlie Holden well. It's not that they shouldn't be on the board. It's that they should be doing their job that they're not doing. They're former town employees, so they have a different perspective of a budget than, say, a taxpayer. But I want to finish.
Yeah, sure.
Because typically what happens is they look at the budget, and there's it goes through a discussion stage. So there is discussions about the budget. But one thing I've noticed is that's not discussed is when you present a budget, when the town manager presents a budget, the select board has no idea what impact it has on the taxpayer. Okay, I attended select board meeting and I spoke at public forum and I said, okay, you just passed the 6% budget to the general government. What impact does that have to the average taxpayer? They didn't know. They had no idea.
Well, in public forum, they can't speak back, so they can't answer your questions. But to your point, you raised it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I went further than that, and I said that should be part of your budget preparation documents. Bud does a great job in preparing a summary budget page. That budget summary page should include the increase to the average tax bill per family. I asked him to do that, and at the next meeting, he came over to me and showed me. So he did do. He's not including it on the documents. He just gave me the figure. But that's never asked.
Yeah.
When you're talking, and that's why I say, former town employees have a different perspective of the budget than, say, a taxpayer. Because they look at a former fire chief. Oh yeah, we do need that new fire truck. I need 3 new ambulances. A former police chief is going to say, yeah, we need new police cars and cameras and all new equipment. And the DPW guy is going to say, yeah, we need more plows.
So then let me ask you this. You have said that the current select board is demonstrating that they don't have our best interests
Yes.
in mind.
If they did have our best interests, we wouldn't be paying, on average, the average tax in Sandwich is roughly $7,600. Then, if you add the average cost of trash removal to that for the average family of $400, we're now up to $8,000. Now that is not the largest tax on the Cape because the properties in P-Town and Wellfleet are $1 million properties, so their taxes are higher on average.
Right.
But we have the highest on Upper Cape, and not just the Cape, but if you look statewide, we're up there too. I've looked at the Department of Revenue tax base data, and we're up there.
So let me finish my thought as it relates to, and I want to talk to that. But if you were to win this seat, you would be sitting next to Charlie and Shane and all of those guys who you have said they don't have their best interest, our best interests in mind, and that they lack accountability.
Oh, I don't know about accountability, but
Well, you did say that in your material. So my question is, how do you work with people that you just said, look, you're not doing the job?
Well, I've done it before.
Yeah.
I've been in private business, worked for many financial institutions, and there can be some big disagreements there, but you have to work together. And I do plan to work collaboratively with the select board and with the town manager. My job will be to convince them of what I want to do. It will be up to me to say, all right, let's take a step back here. What does this budget mean to the average taxpayer? I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm just not going to look at it and say, I move that we approve. There's going to be a lot of, is there something we can cut out of here? Obviously, we do not want to cut essential services. We have a very fine police department and outstanding public safety, fire and ambulance and so on. We can't cut critical services. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to. If you look at our free cash for the past, let's say 4 years, I think last year, I could get some years mixed up, but one year was over $5 million. The previous year was over $4 million. And the previous year before that was over $3 million. We're paying tax on that money.
Yeah.
That means that we're generating more income than what's going out, which is a good thing for a town, but not $5 million worth.
Yeah.
So that tells me that there's areas in the budget that can be cut. And I know it can be a little scary, but there are areas in that budget that can be cut that probably won't hurt much.
So is this a culture thing?
I think
are we voting people in that are rubber stamping things? Are we voting too many of the same people?
I think you hit it right on the head. The nail on the head. It's all rubber stamped.
So we're voting those people in. Where's the disconnect?
I think it takes someone. I mean, we've got a couple of select board members that are running. I'm not familiar with their campaigns, but it's up to the candidate to knock on the door to reach out to voters and say, we can change. Things can get better in Sandwich. As far as taxes and so forth, it's up to the candidates. Because I think a lot of times it's easy to fall into that complacency trap. You know, people feel unempowered, you know. They'll feel that, oh, this is the way we can do it. I can't change it because the same guys keep running over and over again, and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And, you know, I can't run because I got kids in school and I got 2 jobs and, you know.
Tell me about your background. You're a pretty smart guy. You have a impressive background. Tell me about that.
Well, I have a Bachelor of Science in Economics, Finance, and you know, I worked for small and large financial institutions, you know, all through New England. I worked for a very large company several years ago and traveled the whole country visiting clients and customers and stuff. So, you know, it's all been based in business.
Yeah. So that
finance,
business
banking.
acumen is what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
You've had a seat at the table in business.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And in business, private business, you got to toe the line.
Yeah.
Everything is very competitive, right? We all know.
Yeah.
And you have to meet your goals. You have to meet your objectives.
Yeah.
And if not, it's not good, right?
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
So it's almost that we wish municipal employees could be subject to that same kind of scrutiny, I guess.
I was asking all of the candidates. It's the question I ask for those who are running who have never been in that position, school committee and good Lord, constable. I mean, 10 years of doing this, I've asked the question a lot. But this would be a new role for you. You were on FinCom.
Yep.
But this is an elected role. If you're on it, any new job comes with a learning curve.
Yes.
What's your learning curve on day one of being a selectman here in the community?
Well, I think attending my very first select board meeting, you know, I will, you know, reach out to the other select board members and say, you know, how proud I am to be on the board, that we need to work collaboratively. We need to start to change our focus a little bit on the taxpayer. Those are the things that I will fight for. I mean, there will be more learning to do, more learning about the budget in the process. So, you know, I'll have to work with the town manager and the assistant town manager on that. I will have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
You know, I did review a lot of the budget material, but there are more things that I want to know, and I just want to say this quickly.
Sure.
There is, you know, being a town, the town receives a lot of money and grants and some, you know, reward type of things, either from the state or the federal government. So I asked for a copy of that. How much money do we have? How much money have we received in grants? Of that, how much have we spent? Of that, what is left over? And where is it going?
Yeah. What did you find?
Nothing. I was told that document is not available. So one thing that I will ask for is
More transparency.
Right. I will work through the assistant town manager and the town manager to have that information provided. We should know that.
Yeah.
I mean, we received, I'm sure, millions in grants from either the federal government or the state. I'm not talking Chapter 70 and 90. I'm talking, you know, we got this grant for the school for the kids to learn, you know, XYZ or whatever.
Yeah. Just in the interest of time, I want to talk about wastewater with you. Seems to be a big deal around this town.
Yeah.
And we just learned that funding is going to be, you know, the funding for connecting to the base is is now an issue. What's your take on the wastewater project?
Well, it's another area that I need to learn more of. I
Yeah.
mean, I've attended the select board meetings, and I do think that Bud is working very diligently on this. I mean, we know that we purchased that 86 acres off the Discovery Hill Kyers Way property for $3.3 million. So, I mean, that seems to make sense in the event that we must build a waste treatment plant.
Yeah.
And we don't know yet if we really need to, but it's there if we do. If something changes, if we can sell that land, or, so there are some alternatives. But it is an area that I think that we have to look at very strongly.
Yeah.
Are we required to do it? Is it absolutely 100% mandatory to do it? I've heard and I've listened to engineers, people who specialize in wastewater treatments, that have told me that septic systems are much better than your large-scale waste treatment centers. And they have data to back it all up, but I can't read all that stuff.
Right.
So, so there needs to be a lot more discussion on it, not just, okay, let's do it. Because if we do it, it's going to be very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And so, again, if I am on that board, I will be pressing for data and information and requirements.
Yeah. How do you feel about the DPW fire project, that building? What alternatives are there? All three of you running for this seat have said this is crazy, stupid money. I mean, it's just, so everyone is saying, let's go back to the drawing board on that. But what do you see as alternatives for that project?
Well, one alternative that should be looked into, and again, it may not work out, it may not be a good alternative, but one that should be looked into is repairs, maybe additions. Now, we know, of course, that the DPW building at the transfer station is very, very old. It's in bad disrepair. Perhaps it could be enhanced, strengthened, added on to. I mean, you take houses that are 300 years old, they can be fixed into a beautiful property.
Aren't there flood issues with regards to
the fire?
Yeah.
Of course there are.
Yeah, like it's a flooding and structural issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and again, I remember back many years ago when I was on the finance committee, we had a major northeaster. And during that northeaster, we had flooding, and the fire station was flooded so much that the power went out. And so they couldn't operate, and they had to rely on, some help with Mashpee and other towns. So yes, it's an issue.
Yeah.
But what would it take to build a small fire station with only 1 or 2 bays? Maybe that's a crazy idea. But how do we know if we don't look into it?
Yeah, if we don't ask.
If we don't ask, if
Yeah.
we don't, could we strengthen the DPW building, add on to the DPW so it could fit all the plows and so on and so forth, and at the same time have a small, we've got the big complex on Quaker Meeting House, so that serves that whole area. If we only have 1 or 2 fire, I'm no fire engineer or expert, but if we could do a minimal, that could hold an ambulance, 1 or 2 apparatus, would that work? Maybe it won't, but we got to find out,
You are, I've been looking at your social media. You are a Trump Republican. And I know you were at the Bourne Rotary pro-ICE Doge standout. How do you, and I'm very much interested in optics in a campaign. What I hear you say are a lot of what I would consider very healthy things. Ask questions, look for transparency. Are there other alternatives? And I hear that from virtually every every candidate. But when you layer on the optics of a disruption of government and maybe a distrust of government, how do you balance that with a community like ours that perhaps wants more collaboration and civility? How do you apply that thinking in your campaign?
Well, I think it's very, very important for an elected official, and if I'm fortunate enough to get on that select board, I will work very collaboratively with other select board members in the town, manager and assistant manager. So I think I bring that to the table. And sometimes when I am door knocking, there will be a resident. I did have a case where I did some door knocking and the guy knew me. I didn't know him very well, but he knew me. And he told me to my face, I'm a Trump guy. And I said to him, well, how do you know that? And he says, I know who you are, and then I saw you with Trump signs, and okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, but this isn't about Trump. This is about Sandwich. I'm happy to talk to anybody about my beliefs with Trump. I mean, I think we're kind of fortunate in Sandwich because we're kind of insulated a lot from the problems that are affecting many major cities in our own state.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that we have a lot of illegal immigrants that have committed very bad crimes. And so what do? You let them stay? Or do you get them out? What's the best plan?
Yeah.
So,
right.
But I hope that, because when it comes to local elections,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be Republican, Democrat, or Independent. It should be all one, and that's what it's intended to do. Get the national politics out of it, really.
Yeah.
But
Doing a standout when you're running for office, you see the conflict in what you're saying.
Right.
And everyone is entitled to have,
of course,
their
but
stance.
and if you look at the past couple of editions from the Sandwich Enterprise, they're focusing on the anti-Trump protests. I mean, 2 weeks of that anti-protesting from the Sandwich Enterprise. So, people just get all ends of it, really. But
let's wrap up. I want to give you an opportunity if I were, when I'm standing, not if, when I stand at the ballot on May 8th, and I've got your name in front of me, put something in my head, help our viewers understand, why is a vote for Gene Parini so important right now? Why you?
Well, as I stated earlier, the reason why I am running is because I really do want to represent the people of Sandwich. I've been part of local politics for quite some time. I think that I can make a difference. And again, it's fighting for the taxpayer. They're all struggling. We have very young families in town, a lot of young families in town that want to stay in Sandwich because they love the schools. They love the area. We live in a beautiful coastal community. Who wants to move away from that?
Yeah.
We got beaches, we got ponds. So I really think that we can do better for the average taxpayer while maintaining critical services. We do have, and as a result of what's been happening, we have, our population is decreasing in Sandwich. We also have lowering school enrollments.
It's plateaued.
It has, but it's still coming down. I mean, I think we've got like 2,000 right around in that area.
Yeah.
But it's not increasing. And, when you have homes for sale, You want to be able to sell those homes. And if you're a first-time home buyer, I mean, you're looking at $800 a month for your real estate taxes.
Yeah, there's a lot of high barriers to entry for young
Yeah.
families in particular
Right.
to bring their kids to the school district and afford to live here.
Right.
Certainly. Gene, thank you very much.
Well, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too, Greg.
Thank you for coming in. My friends, again, if you don't vote, you know, I'm going to have to write a strongly worded letter to somebody. I don't know who, but get out and vote Thursday, May 8th. This guy's name is on the ballot, as are others and other races. So I hope you get out there and vote. Thanks again so much, and I'll see you soon.